Hey guys, thanks for clicking on this video. This is actually a call that we do every Monday. We call it the WingMan Weekly. We do this at 6 p.m. If you'd like to join us, the link is in the description.
What's up, guys? Hopefully you guys had a good weekend. We are back tonight with our WingMan Weekly show, and we're going to be talking about how to end the year strong. But my name is Nate Hibbert. This is my brother, Stephen Hibbert. I believe he's on this side of me tonight. And we are the WingMan. We want to come alongside you guys wherever you're at in your journey and just help provide content that's going to help you have conversations with you, hopefully be able to answer questions. And if we're not the ones to do it, we want to grow a community here that can answer those questions for you. And so that's kind of the purpose of tonight's call, is just to sit down with you guys on our Mondays and just have open conversation and ask you guys some questions. Hopefully you guys can ask us some questions, and we can just continue to learn and get better together as we're trying to figure out this internet thing. So we're talking a lot about print on demand, and I'm talking more about Shopify, but we've got a few questions tonight that me and Stephen are going to discuss for you guys, and we hope that you'll be active in chat and joining us in this conversation.
Yeah, so Nathaniel started us off on ending the year strong. It was interesting to me this year. We've resold the past however many years. 2 years ago, we kind of changed gears a little bit and went really heavy focus on POD. As Nathaniel was here, we had a lot of conversations, and then we did not participate in Black Friday as far as going out and shopping, but our business took place, obviously, continued to sell during Black Friday without us having to do any additional work. We talked to quite a bit of people that we used to work with, and we still work with, but just in different capacities, and they were wanting to level out the year. So it's not like they have to do 90% of their work at the end of the year because that's where they make most of their money, but like how can they consistently grow and build their business? And it was interesting for me to hear that because I didn't think of it like that. So Black Friday, Cyber Monday are still over. Q4 is still going strong. And how can you finish out the year strong? Me and Nathaniel talked about our business, and just, I don't think anything truly changed other than the mindset behind how we see things. I think me and Nathaniel have always, I should step back and say, me and Nathaniel have always worked well together when I was telling him what to do. I always enjoyed that part of it. But after that, and Nathaniel started this POD journey and I joined him, now that we work together, it has been a few times that we've been stepping on each other's toes just because we don't know who should be taking the lead in certain parts of the business. Now that Nathaniel came here and we talked about it, we have a much better understanding of who should wear the hat in certain instances. This book that we've been reading that I think Nathaniel's finished, I'm very close to being done, The Power and Full Engagement, I think that really helped us clarify where we should be thinking, how we should be thinking about the business. It really talked about energy and energy use. I think this is how we have, at least me personally, clarified how I'm seeing our business. And I think it's made it much easier to get that second wind and be re-energized about the business. I think for a lot of it, especially coming down into Q4, there's a lot of crunch and we were just overthinking a lot of things and then just processing and kind of, I don't know if Nathaniel were really button heads, but there were certain ideas that we had that we just couldn't see eye to eye. And then I think when he came here and we could sit down and talk about it, we just need to clarify some things and see who is the head of this department, who is the head of this department, and then who's taking the lead. And I think me and Nathaniel have a much better understanding of it moving forward. As we've helped a lot of people, we've gotten a lot of similar questions, and especially during Q4, because we can remember and look back, there's a feeling of burnout, there's a feeling of being just scattered, there's a feeling of overwhelm, possibly fear. I just wanted to touch on those with Nathaniel because we covered them for our business, but I think the conversation was really good for us, and I'd like to have this conversation a little bit more openly, and hopefully that can help you guys. I was going to ask you a few questions, but I guess I'll step back a little bit. When you were here and we talked about like the energy usage and the way that we see our business, do you think it helped you mentally clarify things, or did you feel like you made a change completely in your business and you feel like you're doing things completely differently?
No, it just kind of gave me permission to be spending as much time learning new things as I have been the last couple of months. That was really like the clarification that I got of just like, yes, I'm moving in the right direction, and we are on the same page that, the things that I've been learning and putting my time into are important, and neither of us know them all that well. So one of us has to kind of be the one spearheading this thing. And just, yeah, it feels weird not to be like as productive as we have been in the last couple of years. Where it's like, now we've got this system working, we're going to hire people, we're going to really expand this thing, we're going to do services with this. It's like going to be grow more than just us and our account. And we're going to be teaching on it, like all the things that we've done in past years. And it's really just me like in the lab for the last 3 months of just like, okay, trying to figure this thing out, like trying to, use the same principles that we're teaching you guys of getting 1% better and all of those things, but just doing it basically for my own knowledge and trying to see if this is a direction that we want to move in. So having those conversations with you, being like, okay, this is something that we see is going to be of value, not only to us, but also to our community. And so we are going to move in this direction. And like both of us saying, yes, this is something we want. It was like validation a little bit there, but it also does make it's a completely like mental thing of just being, okay, this time that I'm putting into this thing, all the YouTube videos and comments and phone calls that I'm making about this, like this is all worth it and a direction that we are going to continue to move in. So it wasn't all just in vain or another like side project that we had thought about and then just drop. So that was good.
Yeah, you said worth it a few times. I guess that was the thing that was that mental clarity piece. Like we're doing a lot of things. Which one of these is worth it to move us where we're at, to where we're trying to go? I think we saw maybe not the end goal, but like the few next steps slightly differently. And I think that's now why we go, okay, it's easy for us to maybe not split our business, but like be in control of certain parts of our business. You really like working with the client and doing either setting up the store or putting the products on or designing. Like you like doing all that stuff. And we called it like the day-to-day before, but it was just a clarity of like, what is it that like Nathaniel likes to do? What is it that I like to do? And then just how can we set the business up to where we put on the correct hats and not have to be switching them all of the time. I know when I was talking to you, I don't know if burnout is necessarily the word that I would have used, but I do want to address that for this audience. I think as this year comes to a close, and I think people have gone through Black Friday, done all the shipping and the packing and everything, this is now probably the time where people are starting to feel burnt out, and it's just still early December. You still have all of December, and most sales carry on through January because a lot of people get gift cards and they're still spending money throughout the year. So a lot of work still needs to get done. I know we talked about this a little bit before, like when I get that burnout feeling, taking a break, which seems very counterintuitive, is the best thing for me. Our business was going through a lot of changes. We were evolving a ton. I pretty much just left on a vacation for a cruise and kind of dropped the business in your lap, which I feel grateful that we have this partnership. I mean, we've done it to each other. It just so happened to like, it was probably a very pivotal point where it's like, okay, we're putting 4 presentations together. We got all these shipping orders, and it was like, I'm out of here. Like, I gotta go. I can't take it anymore. And then I had the ability to work with my brother or have a partnership and a relationship with somebody that I can just dump that onto and then go and have a break. We don't know. I don't know if I had the ability to do that before, but now the way that our business is set up, that has really helped me to be able to, when I hit that burnout or when I feel that a little bit of overwhelm, just stopping everything, taking a break, and then coming back to it with way more energy. And you've talked about a little before, like the energy and the clarity to make decisions is the thing that you might not realize that you're lacking, but it's the most important part of your business to like be low on energy making decisions. You're just making poor decisions because you do not have the mental fortitude to like continuously beat yourself up making decisions and processes. But I wanted to get your side of that. I feel like taking the break is the best thing. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but I just want to hear your thoughts on if somebody feels burnt out, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I think for us, excuse me, anytime that like feeling of burnout has started to arise, we've just like looked for something new. Not that we would, as we've done in the past, completely drop everything and jump for that new thing, but that we can just add that new thing on. I think both of us really, really enjoy learning new things and trying to figure something out. It's like, a fun puzzle when you first start a new way of selling online and you're like, oh, this makes sense and it helps with this other thing. So it kind of like learning that new thing will spark ideas that might help you with the other things that you're doing.
Interesting.
So I really like that. And I think something else that helps with the burnout is always just constantly thinking. And I'm extremely privileged to work with Steven and to have a business where I can even have this thought, but it's like, what part of this business do I enjoy? And then leaning into that. There have been times where I've very much so been the graphic designer and been wearing that graphic designer hat, and that's all I'm doing for like 16 hours a day is making designs. Then there's the other times where I'm like project manager and I'm figuring out how all these people can work together and what's the highest priority. And then other times I don't know, there's so many things that we have going on, but that there's always been like the ability to kind of pivot what my main focus has been, whether that's like making presentation or making the thing look better. I could, like I said, I feel extremely privileged to have this business where it's like, I feel like making this presentation look really well like today or even this week. Like that's what I'm going to focus on this week, is just making sure this thing is top notch. So having a business where you can kind of pivot between a few different things is also really cool. I think that's because of the foundation we've set up, and we have so many things going on at once. So if I'm feeling burnt out, I usually can just be like, hey, can you do this? And then when you're done with it, I'll pick it back up. And that's going to take you time to like get to and actually do that thing, and then I can go and focus on the next thing I want to do. And we've kind of built learning into our business, so even if that means for me like taking a little like artist break and going and learning this new art style or this new tool that I can use to make new designs, or tell the team to use to make new designs, like all of that kind of still works for the business. So my interests are very much so like usable for what we're doing day to day.
That's interesting to fight burnout with like trying to pick up something else that you're interested in to like re-spark that energy. I guess that was something that we were doing a lot more of in the past, was like, hey, we're starting to really get burnt out on this because it feels like we're doing the same thing over and over. We need that extra like learning piece to keep us motivated and moving forward. I think both are valid. That's why I like having these conversations. I do want to start bringing on more people. I like the chat. People are saying, you work 16 days, no wonder you're tired. And then they were saying that 15.5 hours is the max that you should be working. But these conversations, I think, are what me and Nathaniel are constantly talking about, and what we and our partners are constantly talking about. And I want to just have those openly with this community. It's, I don't know, that feeling of being an online entrepreneur and feeling alone and not feeling like you have anybody to communicate with, and kind of feeling like you're out there on an island all alone. I remember that. And that's why we wanted to build this community, so you don't feel alone and we can cover a lot of these topics together. So any questions that you guys have that you're like, I'm getting stuck here, we're here. We want to answer those questions. The next part of this was like that feeling scattered. This might be like a default of how I think and operate, but I'm always like juggling multiple thoughts and then trying to catch Nathaniel up with my future plans, and then just realizing like, oh, I can't like consistently be dumping all these ideas onto Nathaniel. When he was here, it was different because we would see the same things and then just have the conversation real quickly and then either shelve it or put it on like the to-do list. Now that he doesn't live here, like not so much anymore. Maybe this is a lie, you could answer it, but I fill the conversation. Like either we're having a conversation on Slack, we're having a conversation in the Facebook Messenger, we're having a conversation on the phone, like wherever we're talking, I normally just go like, here's another idea, here's another idea, here's another idea, to where Nathaniel's like, I got to turn it off at like this time because you need to brain dump and it doesn't need to involve me. And then just realizing like, oh, I don't know about scatter is the word, but I got a lot of ideas. How do I sort these ideas? Something that we have done very recently, we tried it a few different ways on a few different programs, is scheduling and organizing and really focusing in on the importance and then prioritizing our business. I think that's been a huge benefit to me, to just have Nathaniel take over that part of it, where I go, here's a lot of ideas and problems that I can solve, but instead of trying to preemptively do all that stuff, let Nathaniel run mostly the daily meetings or the weekly meetings, whatever meetings that we're having. And then he can hit the topics, and then I can just give my 2 cents on that. So it's not so shotgun. It's a lot more laser focused when we go, here's a business, here's a relationship, here's a partnership. Where are we at with this? What's the next step? Then we just can bring it up in front, deal with it, schedule it, and then move on. That's something that has really helped us. So if you're like me and you got a million ideas going on, either find somebody like a Nathaniel or somebody that can organize your thoughts and then prioritize them and then go top to bottom, most priority, most
Highest
I was going to
priority.
say financially beneficial, but I guess you have to figure out what's best, highest priority for you, and then
What
go
your
down.
values are.
Yes.
Yeah. So my 2 cents on feeling scattered is, very much so being routine, but finding those programs that you're actually going to use, because that's something that I struggled with at the beginning. We'd heard about like Airtable and all these like cool programs that can do a gajillion things, and you can have this plugin and it works with this thing, but it's like, trying all of that and setting up, like taking, 2 weeks to be like, okay, this is how this thing would finally work together. And then we never like go back to it because it wasn't fitting with our workflow, or, the apps that we're currently opening up, or we just found it too cumbersome or whatever. And we never go back to that stuff. So I was like, oh, okay, like, it felt like organization just wasn't for us for the first like couple of months that we were starting this print on demand journey.
I like how you said that it was not for us.
Yeah, but really what it was is we just didn't have tools that fit for our workflow. And so now, as much of an Adobe fanboy I'm that now for Google. I'm a huge Google fanboy just because of the suite of tools that are integrated with my phone, my tablet, my computer, like, and I can open them anywhere. Like, it's very easy to access these tools, and they work well with like sharing. So any document that I'm working on, immediately I can send it over to Stephen, and he can start editing it regardless of what computer or where he's at, which is super important for as much as we travel around and as disorganized as we can be at times. Again, like Google Drive, you just type in one word, it'll find a document from 4 years ago and just be like at your fingertips. So
yeah, definitely finding a system that works for you and the tools to do so.
Yes,
has really helped us.
I'm sure there's a million books on that, and that's something I want to read a lot more on, because I need to get better at organizing, especially as we're bringing on more people and like managing not only their time, but the projects that we're working on and what needs to get done, because it's like going back between me and Steven and some other people we're working with. So all that needs to get better. But I would say the one thing that I started adding in the last couple of weeks even is just having end times to things. So now meetings have end times. Now projects have end times, and it's no longer just like, okay, we're going to have this meeting and it could be 30 minutes or it could be 4 hours. It's like, okay, we have this much time to meet. If we go less, that's great, but we're not going to go over. We're going to respect the schedule and stick with, the rest of the days that we have planned out as well. We're not perfect at it, as today our meeting started a little bit late. And of course there are life things that happen. And so we have to adjust for that. I'm not too much of a stickler for that. I hope not yet. But just having end times for things has been a real game changer for me. Even people that I respect very much, and I am like honored to have their time, I set the end time so that when I go there, I can show them that, I want to honor your time. I don't want to ask too much of you or ask too many questions or anything like that. So that's been extremely helpful, and something I hope to get better at in 2020 and that helps a lot with the scattered, especially the last 2 weeks, and even not next week, but the week after that, going up to Michigan for Christmas. Like the last 2 weeks we were in Florida, and all the travel and everything that was involved with that. You can feel a lot of out of sorts if you don't have all these things written down. Like if I didn't start last month with a very clear goal in what I was working on, in the middle of the month here, I'd just be like twirling my thumb, because like I have no idea where we're on any of these projects. But we looked at it today. We had like 10 things on our priority list, and we narrowed it down a little bit. And so keeping all those projects moving forward, keeping them written down on the schedule, time and a place for all those things that we're going to be talking about, like that is a huge way to kind of combat being scatterbrained and feeling like you're all over the place. And I think that all starts with just like writing things down wherever you're comfortable with it. Stephen likes his notebooks. I don't like any notebooks. I hate my handwriting. So everything is done on Google Keep, which is their like basically notepad that can be transferred through anything. And so just finding where you can write things down, and then that will translate into like a to-do list, and then that will transfer into your schedule. It's kind of the workflow that we have for, again, combating being scattered.
Yeah, we actually have some people that we work with in here. I think the additional piece of that after reading chat is the accountability piece and that extra bit of knowledge. I think I definitely write things down, and it's very hard to take my thoughts and then like give them to you. And Messenger is something that I was using before just because I was used to it. And then you sitting down and going, hey, it's probably better if we can do it this way. We can use Google tools this way. We can do a document. We can do Excel. This is how we can pass information back and forth. We can use Slack. We can use Trello. Just going through and testing and trying all the tools for us, even though it took a long time to figure out what works best for us. Now we have a system that's almost unbreakable, to where anything that gets moved around, we can at least find it, go back to it, and then be on the same page very quickly. As before, it was like, we did this 6 months ago. Where is it? Who knows? Good luck trying to find it.
We got a million other things in the system. If you just said it's unbreakable, I don't know if I've ever heard you use that terminology before.
Well, I think the unbreakable as far as like going back and finding the pieces, and like the unbreakable of like, hey, this thing is gone and we don't know where it's at. It's like we can at least go back and find it. But even you talking to some of the people that we work with, and like how to pass files back and forth, and then how to organize everything, like I feel like that's a strength of yours. I don't know if you want to shoot videos on that, but the organization is something that I think you're.
Yeah, I think it's purely out of necessity. If
I'm
like, he's got, one.
Yeah, I dump a million things on you, and you got to sort it and put it somewhere. You're like, I don't know.
Yeah, that on top of like, if I'm going to be the one going all over the place and having my computer crash, I mean, it was almost 2 years ago now, so that pain's a little bit farther away. But when that happened, I was just like, oh crap, like we've got to figure this out. The system has to be better, because if I lose like one piece of technology, I do not need this business like coming to a screeching halt like it did like 2 years ago. So just figuring out all of those problems, again, kind of out of necessity, but now I've found to enjoy it just because of all the time and effort I've put into it.
And I guess the last piece, and maybe this falls in with everything else, but like I just want to separate out this feeling of overwhelm, or possibly even like fear of not hitting your goals. As the year comes to an end, something that I like to do is reflect and just know like where we set goals in 2019. We haven't missed them. We've just changed directions quite a bit and evolved a lot. And Christy is in here, and that's the person where I've got that terminology from. So evolve is something new to me. If you hear me say it a lot, I think it's because I just was like, oh, this is a perfect word for this situation. We are changing and understanding more about us, what our skills are, how we want to be helping people. We were teaching, doing a lot of speaking engagements. I think we will do that, but dial it back. It won't be like every other week or once a month going over here and traveling. And it was a lot. And then to try to manage a business, it was like, we can't juggle everything, and things are just falling apart. How can we better organize this stuff? So if that's you and you feel a little bit overwhelmed, or you feel like, hey, next year is coming up, I didn't really hit my goals, but I want to do better, reflecting and then just adjusting and moving forward, I think is the best piece of advice that I can give you. I'm going to let you answer that, Nathaniel, but then I'm going to go into a little bit more of like our current business and our situation, how we want to move into 2020.
Yeah, I would say the goals is something I'm a lot more like strict on when it comes to like me making my own personal goals and goals for the business and stuff like that. I definitely want to hit these by end of year. But I have learned, again, from Christy, this great word of pivoting and changing as the year goes on. So it's not just like, yes, we either made it or we failed, but it's like, okay, our priorities have changed a little bit. This is why we're going in this new direction. And I'm, happy inside of the business. And I think that's one of the biggest things for me and Steven. If we're not happy doing something, like, unfortunately, we're just not going to do it anymore. It's a bad thing to say. It probably makes us not good employees for anyone in future if that ever happens. But it's the reality of the situation now where, if we're not happy, if we're not excited about where this business or where we're going, if we are, sleeping perfectly throughout the night and we're able to turn things off at 5 like a normal business, then it's probably, we're probably losing a little bit of spunk for what we're doing. So keeping happy at the forefront is important for us, definitely, when it comes to those types of things. But as far as setting goals goes and how do you do that, I have really tapped into this 1%. It's been something that I've been doing for a while without the fancy name of calling it 1%, so you guys wouldn't know what I was talking about before, and I didn't have a good way of talking about it. But since we've covered this topic so much, I can just say 1%, and hopefully you'll understand it. But it's really that idea of now, even on a weekly basis, I'm writing down what is the one thing that I want to get, or 1% better that I want to do, as far as YouTube content goes, or the design team and the design business and design service and all of these things that I'm working on that are on my priority list. I have the 1% thing that I'm going to be getting better at, and I try not to delete those. I try to just archive them. So now at the end of the year, I can go back and look at here are all the things that I'm trying to get 1% better at. And as I've been doing that, some of them I just completely forgot. Oh yeah, I was supposed to be doing this thing that I figured out how to do, but I just stopped doing it because we had a vacation, and when I came back, it just completely slipped my mind or whatever. And so there's like some good to just be like, oh man, we've come so far, especially the YouTube page. Like even if you guys go back and look at some of the videos from even like a month or two ago, they're just like not nearly well put together, thought through, and those have a long way to go. That's not their final form. We're still working on a lot of things, and still have my 1% that we're getting better even this week. And so it's a fun thing to do to see how far you come, but it's also a good reminder of all the things that you are trying to do. And it might feel a little bit overwhelming, but again, even if there's like something you have to add to your list, okay, next week I'm gonna get 1% better at this thing I already got 1% better at. It's just gonna continue, like you're gonna continue to evolve, and the quality of work that you can do is gonna continue to go up. And so that's a good way for me to like deal with the fear of not hitting my goals, but also like, again, combat that feeling of being overwhelmed, where it's like, okay, look how far we were, this time last year, and how far we've come, I should say. And just understanding that it doesn't happen overnight. It's not going to happen tomorrow as badly as I want it to. These business deals that I've been working on for 8 months, like they're not just going to all of a sudden solve themselves and everything's going to be happy, happy, joy, joy. Like there's still just, you got to put the time in and do things little by little. And then, it's fun now that this was 25, so a little bit of a milestone for my like personal goal setting, being able to look back when I was 20 and seeing where I was. And I was like, oh, I was just a little graphic designer working for somebody else at that time, basically, because that was the gap that we took between retail arbitrage and kind of what we're doing now. And so just seeing like what my goals were then and what they are now, it's like funny and kind of cool to see how far we've come. So I would say sticking with 1% is even a good idea when it comes to goal setting, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I guess most of the goals that we talked about were business, but I know you did set goals 3 or 4 years ago to just travel a country, and you being able to like check that box, I think has made it a lot easier for me to go, hey, remember when we were conceptualizing all of these ideas and setting these goals, and it was such a big fight for us to like get on the same page, to where it's like now you can look back and say, oh, I did set a goal and I did accomplish that, and look how much I have changed and grown over the years. That was a very lofty goal at the time, where you just got into a bad accident. You just moved in with us. It was like you almost restarting your life. And then you were like, I'm traveling. I was traveling the world. I'm doing all these things. Like, okay, where are you at right now? Like your life is scattered all over the place. Let's rebuild this thing. And then I think you can do all those things, to where now we can look back and go, we've done that. Like we've come this far. Now we just have to keep it focused and make sure we're moving forward. Something that I think we've done tonight and I want to do a lot more of, and I think it's just a natural, we are brothers, we see a lot of things the same, eye to eye, but there are different ways that we view things. Even this morning having a call and like saying a word when I was saying client work, and then what your viewpoint on client work was versus mine, was like, oh, sometimes we just see things from two different viewpoints. I want to start bringing on more people on these calls when we have these topics and just get their viewpoints. I think that's extremely beneficial. I think that's why a lot of people enjoy the videos I'm doing with my mom. We have other videos in smaller groups that we're doing like group learning on, and those are getting a lot of traction, a lot of good feedback. I want to do that a lot more live on these calls, by bringing in people and then saying, hey, here's the topic. This is how I see it. This is how you see it. Here's some common ground. Here's things that we just are not going to see eye to eye on, but there's no like right or wrong to it. As we answer these questions, I think a lot of them were very similar answers. But as me and Nathaniel talked about our business, and then just better understanding like who should be the lead on this project, who should be the lead in this department, how do we get this done, who should be working on with this, it's almost like the taxes and the CPAs, like we have that stuff locked in, investments and other things. There's certain departments that we have inside our business that are kind of locked in. What me and Nathaniel are doing are constantly like taking on new opportunities. We wanted to do a better job of like, instead of like we both jump on this thing and then we start pulling the ship from two different directions, how can one of us just take the lead on this thing? I think it works better if Nathaniel can have like, this is your thing, and then you operate under that, because there's been certain times this year that it's worked like that, and those parts of our business are growing and outpacing other parts of our business where we're both trying to figure this thing out. So it was a very interesting conversation that we had. I wanted to just bring up how we view next year. Nathaniel was like, oh, I'm starting this new project. And to me, when I heard that, I was like, that's not what we're doing. And then we had a long discussion about it. But then I saw it from his point of view, and I was like, okay, that makes sense for you. Let's go into that tonight, and then let's explain this so that hopefully we can help more people. So if you're in a point of your business where you've been doing it one kind of way, and you're like, hey, I want to take ease on this, or I don't want to say drop it because that's a dangerous way, or you want to bolt onto your business without dropping something completely, even though that's a lot of times how we've done certain things, just completely dropped it and moved on. I think at certain points you have to make that call. I don't think Nathaniel's necessarily dropping any part of his business, but I'm just picking up a lot of things and allowing him to just start over on something new. I feel like our business is scaling and adding, and Nathaniel's point of view when he said, or starting new on this, that's why we didn't see eye to eye, but I wanted him to explain how he views next year, and then I'll talk about how I view next year, and then I want to have a conversation on what our advice is to you guys if you want to drop it or if you want to scale and grow, and then what our advice is on that.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit hard for me. I wish we had this call like last week before we had this whole conversation where now we're on the same page. So a little disclaimer, if you're working with anybody, or if you have a business partner or a brother who's helping you, definitely I think the most like stress relieving conversations we have are like, what is your viewpoint? That's something that we've been saying to each other recently.
Yeah, your perspective. Why are you seeing this thing differently?
Yeah, so like Steven's telling me something, I'm like, no, that's false, but explain why you're seeing it that way. And then using like analogies and visual aids to just explain our viewpoints has been extremely helpful, but that's kind of a side note. So focusing on next year, I'm amped up and I'm excited. I'm fighting burnout and feeling scattered and overwhelmed and all these things because I get to focus on this new exciting thing to me, at least, which is Shopify. And I'm able to pour in, like I said, a lot of time just learning it and trying to wrap my head around it and watching content and reading blogs and solving problems with Shopify and
putting out fires.
Yeah, putting out fires, creating deals in a horrible way and learning how to restructure them. And all of these things that I'm learning is just super exciting for me. And they all feel very new. I don't want to step on your toes too much, but Stephen has showed me that a lot of the things that I'm doing are kind of only possible because of this huge like business we've already grown behind us. That's giving me the knowledge. Like, you know, designs isn't something I've ever really worried about, but now that I haven't done any design work in quite a while, it's not even like crossing my mind that would be a problem that someone needs to solve. Kind of the same with, you know, keywords and data and stuff. Like, I'm like, okay, this is a part that I need to do. Stephen, you do that. And I'm going to learn these other things. It's not like, okay, now I have to take this on and I have to learn how to do keywords specifically for Shopify, because our research team just needs to tweak a few things and then it works perfectly for Shopify and what we're doing. And so while there is a lot of like new learning as far as like, where do those keywords go and how do they actually affect what we're selling? But all that information is only possible to like zero in on because I already know I can reach out to Stephen and get those things to kind of fuel the fire that I'm building. So it does feel like I'm basically not starting over, but I'm starting a new wing of our business. And it's allowing me to do quite a few things, but I'm operating inside of Shopify and they're all moving forward. So partnering and client work and building out things for ourselves and creating funnels and building, you know, web stores, which is something new to us in the last couple of months. All these things feel very new, but it's not as new as like, you know, completely shifting gears and starting in a new pathway as if we were starting like a brick and mortar business. Like that would be completely new to us and something that would, I don't know if our skills would translate well into having a brick and mortar store. With Shopify, a lot of our skills are transferring extremely well, and that's why it's allowing us to be on our 4th Shopify store already, and just keep moving this thing forward. And yeah, that's what I'm excited about in 2020. Doing more partnering with that, understanding Shopify deeper, creating our own themes and apps and all of those things just seems like a really good fit for us. And yeah, like I said, it's helping me fight this burnout because Lord knows in previous years, you know, when it's coming down to it near Christmas, you're like, I am so thankful it's a holiday and no one else is working today, which is giving me the excuse to not work today. But this year, it's not really like that. Like I'm enjoying this 2-week span that we have kind of between Thanksgiving and Christmas to, you know, keep learning and keep working and launching new stores for clients that, you know, have a mainstream audience and all these things that we've got going on. Are just exciting, and I do wake up like excited to see what new fires I have to put out for the day, which I had some successful firefighting experience today, so feeling very good about it right now.
Yeah, I guess that was the second wind in our business was that's why I said I don't think anything really changed other than the viewpoint on it. The jobs that we still are doing are a lot of combined work, but just like, oh, I'll let you take the lead on this and I'll take the lead on this other project, and then being able to see it. But when you said, oh, we're starting something new, that was like really took me back. I was like, I don't see it like that at all. But I almost wish we did have this conversation before, because it would have been a lot more interesting, because it almost like you're seeing it from my side now, where it's we are adding something new and we are scaling. But just if you're in that position where it's you're doing a lot, you don't enjoy certain aspects of it, and you are kind of feeling burnt out, maybe it is time 2020 to switch gears and just try something new. You don't have to completely drop the business that you're doing, but just set time aside to go, okay, I want to try this new thing. I'm going to build this into my plan and prioritize it, and then make sure things are getting done. A lot of ideas that we have and how we help people and working in smaller groups is like, how do we actually achieve that? I think has gone into this idea. I see our business expanding, growing, and scaling. It's just a who's in control of what part of the business. I think both of us were trying to do the teaching and growing the business. I think me and Athena are seeing it now where I can head up the teaching because it's easier for me to see the 10,000 foot view, let Athena do the actual work, and then I can go, hey, this is a lesson we learned. This is a lesson we learned. I think it's hard when you're actually doing it to take a step back and go, what lessons did I learn here? Like it seems like everything was a mess, and then I kind of figured it out, and now I'm ready to go to the next step and put out another fire. I think for me, it's easy when I can just, hey, Dale, this is a way that we can solve this problem together. And this is a really good lesson. Let me take this bit of it, either write it up and have you, like, from your point of view, do the same thing. Make a quick video, and then let's try to find ways to pull this content together to help our audience moving forward. Because business is a lot of problem solving. I think the way that we problem solve is very interesting. I want to help other people with their problem solving. Me and Christy and me and a lot of other people have been talking about the entrepreneur spirit versus the entrepreneur mindset, and then how those things kind of work together and they don't always line up, and just seeing how different people solve different problems, I think is very beneficial. Again, I think that's why when I help my mom, a lot of people are very interested, because there's, oh, I'm also working through that problem. It's very interesting the way that you're talking about it, instead of me just going, hey, you know what you need to do? XYZ, and then you're done. There are no more problems. When it's like, there's a lot of nuances that you have to think about, and it's very difficult to do that by yourself. It's much easier to have somebody that you're working with together, so they can ask you those questions, you can ask other people questions and go, this is a problem, how do we solve this? And then just the solving the problem, I think, is very interesting for people to watch. I'm going to switch gears a little bit, hopefully not too crazy, but as we are adding Shopify to our business, me and Athena are very interested on kind of starting a new journey, and we want you guys to come along with us on this journey. I don't know truly what that means, other than Nathaniel's gone and set up Shopify stores. I think there was a lot of information there that we could have shared. We just didn't know what we were doing at all. So it was a real hot mess. But I think now, after doing it for a while, it's like, okay, now we can help people at least set up a Shopify store. What are the things that you should be paying attention to? And then as we learn, we want to bring people into, like, let's collectively learn together. I've asked different questions in different groups and gotten a lot of good feedback on Shopify, and people are getting geared up to do Shopify things. I was talking to a different friend of mine, and I think I want to put together a mastermind. Again, I've never put a mastermind together. I've been a part of a lot of masterminds. I want to, I guess, bring back, I don't know if we ever dropped it, the 20-minute calls. I'm going to shorten them down to 50-minute calls. I want to talk to people that feel like they're ready to take the next step into Shopify, and then just kind of gauge where people are at and see if this mastermind is a good fit for people in this community. I don't think this is going to be good if you're just starting off, because there's a lot of lessons that you kind of have to know to be able to sell online. I feel like Shopify is like, you either have to have an audience or be able to grow an audience, and you have to have a lot of foundational pieces to even get to that point. We want to help you and show you what we're doing. We're doing a lot of very interesting partnerships, some things that have worked, some things that have definitely blown up in our face. I think Nathaniel's current partnerships are very interesting. I would like to have collectively put together a group to go, hey, this is what we're doing. This is very interesting. These are the things that we're trying. And this is a ton of information that we're learning. How can we collectively learn together in a very small group? That's an idea that I have. I guess I wanted to try something. I think maybe I should have started with this, but because it's something new and I want to 1% this call, I want to add a presentation piece, a visual aid piece. Is that how I should say that?
Yeah, I would say it's a visual aid.
A visual aid.
Yeah, I have some thoughts that I can share, but I'll wait until you do your little presentation.
I should have had this thing set up. I didn't even realize I was going to throw to it like this.
Well, then I'll give my...
No, I got you.
Okay,
All
right.
Can you see chat and all the Zoom windows and all the items and everything? Okay. So this is a question I asked in our group. Hey, Wingman University, as 2019 comes to a close, I am thinking about putting a lot more time into Shopify. I want to see who is selling on Shopify or is planning to start Shopify in 2020. This was from a conversation that me and Nathaniel had, just like, I was like, I'm interested. Let me see if I can just ask people in our community. And I got a lot of good feedback, but I just want to put some of them here. And just this, I guess, was more mind-boggling to me to see that there were so many people interested in Shopify, because it almost felt like we were moving in a completely new direction that nobody was really interested in, but Shopify and POD. And as you can see, I plan on learning it, Shopify site, but it's dormant. I'd love to add POD. Getting started. Sorry, I should have grabbed some water. I'd love to go down that venture. I am planning to. Goals for 2020. It was just very interesting for me to see that. And I think it makes it easier for us when we're asking questions and polling the community to see how can we help you guys? What is the information that, something that we're going into, and is it something that you guys are interested in? I want to try to ask more questions. I need the community's help. As I ask these questions, just some type of feedback allows me to put these shows together that I think are a lot more focused and to the point. Me and Thea have a lot of ideas. Something that we're trying to do is just focus in on these ideas. That's why we're trying to pick the month now and then put the topic around that month. Shopify is almost like the umbrella of next year. There's a lot of lessons that I'm sure we're going to learn. There's going to be ads that we're going to have to run, marketing, as we develop the actual themes like Nathaniel talked about, the apps. All that information is stuff that we want to share with you guys and see what's worth the time and energy to put into and what's probably not worth it. And then just maybe collectively adding more people to these calls and say, hey, when we're trying to grow an audience, when we're trying to do XYZ, what's some feedback that we can get? This is what we're trying to do. This is the results that we're getting. Who has done these type of things? And how can we just collectively have this conversation? I just wanted to show you that because I truly appreciate this community. I love that you guys are active. I love being able to ask those questions and get those feedback. It's just extremely beneficial to me. And I just want to say thank you for everybody that commented on those posts.
Yes. I have, while Stephen was talking, I just had something kind of strike me, and it's something I'm going to suggest to you guys as kind of practical advice. You can tell me if it's good or bad, Stephen, what your thoughts are on this. But it's something that we just kind of did in our business, and I didn't realize it until this moment. But as 2019 is coming up and wrapping up here at the end of this last month, something I was doing was writing down every project that we were working on so that we could create a priority list moving into 2020. It took us about 2 weeks, so that would be my suggestion to you guys for the next 2 weeks. That kind of works out well because that will be basically the last week of the year you're ending on. You can write down every project that you're working on. So whether this is your side hustle thing or your main focus, like every project that you're doing that you would wrap up in the side of your print-on-demand business, write that thing down. And then at the end of those 2 weeks, go through and see what is the actual priority that you want to continue putting time into. I think that's why me and Stephen have a lot of clarity moving into 2020, is just because we've been able to ditch a lot of ideas and things that have actually been on my to-do list for like weeks. And we're just like, okay, clearly if we have not done that, we've not put the effort and energy into that. We're just going to ditch that. Yeah, it's not a priority. It doesn't actually fit inside of this new way that we are setting goals for 2020. So like, we don't have to worry about it. Yes, it is something that would, increase the quality of whatever, or this idea could have turned into this great, wonderful thing. But it's not the direction we're heading in. So we're okay with letting that slide or, move off to the back shelf. So the practical advice, again, is for the next 2 weeks, write down everything that you guys are doing as far as projects for this business, and just try to prioritize them and see where they lay. Now, how I'm tying this all into what Stephen just talked about is if learning something new is on that priority list, or, you want to discover something new to help fight the burnout that we just talked about, or, stay a little bit more organized, then reach out to us. I'm going to push this in just a second. But the other thing is, especially if Shopify is on that list, please reach out to us. So like Stephen said, we're doing these 15-minute calls. And so either if you're trying to learn something new for 2020, or if Shopify specifically is on that list, like, we would love to talk to you. And these are the people that we're trying to work with moving forward, as we're trying to build a mastermind that we can just share openly what we're currently going through. That was kind of the backbone of what WingMan started on in the first place. Was we were doing this for Merch by Amazon. We're like, we're learning these lessons. Like, these lessons have to be helpful to some other people out there. And so that's kind of the exact mode that we're in for Shopify. As the last 3 jobs that I've done have just been so monumental for the experience and the way that we're going to move forward. It's like these experiences, this information, these fires that I've had to put out, like, have to be helpful to someone else out there that wants to do something similar. And we're at that point where, like, you can ask us questions about the specific thing we're going through, and I think that getting those answers are a little bit more helpful. Like we just said, like, now that me and Steven see eye to eye, the question, or the way that I answer this question, isn't as, like, impactful as if we would have done this call a week ago. And so kind of that same idea inside of this mastermind, you're getting to ask us questions of, like, oh, why are you solving it this way, and not this other way? So, that's kind of the idea as well, is not only are you getting to ask us questions kind of in the heat of the moment, or the heat of battle, even at sometimes, you're getting to help us find solutions for moving forward. We don't know everything about Shopify. Shopify seems like a massive tool that we have just barely scratched the surface. Now, we're earning and learning, which is fantastic, and we have customers that are very happy with the things that we're putting together, but that doesn't mean that there's just a ton of room to improve, and even more options for the clients that we currently have and clients that we'll have in future to do things better. And so that's what we want to do kind of with this mastermind. And so if we can follow my thought trail through all of that, we just want to make sure that this can be a priority for you guys, because the thing that we value the most is action takers. The people that have taken action on our learning this last year, I feel like we've kind of brought together and put in smaller groups and tried to learn with you guys and moving forward. And that's definitely something we value and something we want to do more in 2020. So if you are ready to take action or learn something new, or this sounds exciting to you and you just want to know more, definitely please click this link and just have a 15-minute conversation with us. These conversations are going to happen Wednesday through Friday for the next 2 weeks before we go for our Christmas vacation a little bit. But we just want to sit down with you guys and have conversation and see where you're at with your business, what you're excited about learning, and if we can be of help, and if we think our mastermind is the right direction for you to move in. I don't know if we have any, like, sales copy for you to tell you, like, this is how much it's going to be, or this is what we're expecting. This is more Steven's brainchild than it is mine. But I'm excited to just work with you guys and figure out, how we can best help each other to move forward with what I think is doing something fairly unique. I know there are people selling print-on-demand products through Shopify, but I feel like we have a unique twist on what we're doing and some new unique tools that are allowing us to do some pretty cool stuff as well. And just, a very good network to move forward with this idea that will be helpful. So, yeah, that's our sales pitch, our call to action for this call, I guess, is we just want to talk with you guys some more. Surprise, surprise. We want this to be a community where you guys feel like you can reach out to us and talk with us. So if those two things are a priority to you, or if you just want to, be more involved with what the WingMan have going on, we definitely have content for other things going on in 2020. It's not all going to be Shopify, but I'm just jazzed up about this right now. And so that's what I'll be talking about a lot for the next several months, I'm sure. So yeah, do you have that link that you can post, or do we post it already?
I can post that link inside chat, and I guess I'll put it on everywhere else that this is being broadcasted.
All right, great. So yes, we are excited for 2020. We're excited to keep answering you guys' questions, to have more open calls where we can read chat and just answer questions that we've seen in the community, show the post that Stephen is actually making as he's putting effort and energy into that, and we're seeing good response there. We just want to show kind of a lot more that's going on behind the scenes as well with this mastermind idea. So I have a story that I can share, but I feel like we've made up a good amount of time.
You can't tease it now and then.
Well, I am going to tease it because I'll shoot a whole video for it and release that on our YouTube channel. So, yeah, I have.
That was something that we got a lot of feedback on. I think mostly negative. It was like, you guys keep talking and hinting at things, and then you don't talk about them. I was like, oh.
Okay. No, I'll make this a YouTube video. I need an extra idea for this week anyways. So I'm going to save this idea. If you guys want to check out, this idea, the story that I had happened to me just over the week about me and my mom, there's a little extra teaser. You guys can check out our YouTube channel as it will be posted there probably tomorrow when I get to film and edit all of that. So that will work out good for me. All right. Anything else you want to end on?
I think that's it.
Okay,
if you guys are interested in Shopify, please hit up that link. We'd love to just sit down and talk to you, see if it's a good fit. Nathaniel, like you said, we don't really have any sales copy for it. It's just an idea that I had that I wanted to get out to you guys and then start jumping on some of these calls and see if we can't put something together that seems like a good fit for our community. Hey guys, thanks for checking out the video. Please leave us a like if you liked it, a dislike if you disliked it, subscribe to see more, and comment below if you have any questions. All right guys, take it easy.